Hello again, everybody. I've got my laptop in front of me. I'm logged into the chat on our shroudoftheavatar.com site. So if you're just watching the video and not in the chat, come on by the chat room. I'll be checking in occasionally to see if there's any new questions. Did this earlier this morning. Introduce myself again real quick. I'm Rick Holtrop, developer, sometime designer, sometime programmer, sometime producer on everything we do here. Everybody does so much stuff. We all fill so many roles. Did this morning and kind of took some questions right before I came in here this afternoon. I spent some time on the forums, which I usually do, but this time I wrote down some things that I figured we could talk about. In my introductions earlier today, I give myself up as the care bearer of the group. I let these guys worry about the hard things like economy and combat and PvP and all that stuff. I have a particular love for housing and crafting and sitting in chairs on porches and things like that. Yeah, Fire Lotus is upset. I told Chris. Oh, this poor thing. Doctor. Oh, sorry, little guy. He's a mean guy. He can hang in there. So, on my notebook I brought in today, the couple things I found on the forum that some things I'd seen some threads that interested me earlier and just thought maybe we could all brainstorm together today. Just a short list of 3 things. Came up during our Google Hangout chat yesterday, and of course we're doing one later today. I think maybe an hour from now at around 5:30 we're having a Google Hangout chat. Take a look at our Shroud of the Avatar chat for the link to it, and some of the other places as well. Fire Lotus is good about letting everybody know. But the Hangout chat yesterday, Richard had brought up one of our current discussions, which seemed to interest a few people, NPC conversations and interacting with NPCs and conversating with them. If you're familiar with Richard's games of old, from time to time, some of them would have you type certain things. And as we all know these days, most games, when you interact with NPCs, they're menu systems, and you choose from a couple different things. And so the current conversation is which would be best for us. What do people love most? What are the pros and the cons, of course, of each? I think I can see both sides of both, and so we're really just interested to know mostly how our players feel. So that was number 1 on my list, is conversations to type or not type. I'd also like to brainstorm a little bit about treasure hunting. There was a treasure hunting thread that I found in our forums that I had a particular love for, and that's something that we've slowly begun to discuss around here. I saw it discussed in great heat through a couple of people the other day, but again, looking just for some feedback on that, brainstorms, things that everybody liked or disliked about that, ways that we might implement that in the game, things to stay away from if there were things that we learned in the past that we did incorrectly. So number 1, conversations. Number 2, treasure hunting. Number 3, I really just, my own personal love for Richard's virtue systems that he introduced back in Ultima 4, and I have a feeling that that's always on his mind as he builds new worlds and crafts new stories. That those are always on his mind, and so maybe if we just throw some things out there, Richard is always open to new ideas that help form the direction that he's heading. So I thought those would be fun things to talk about. Anything else too anybody wants to bring up? Again, I'm hanging out in the chat room on shroudoftheavatar.com. Come by and ask any questions, leave any comments. We'll talk about many things. Let's see. First on my list was conversations. To type or not type in conversations. Some of the concerns I saw about if we do have typing in the game, that it might be a little too verbose, too wordy. I don't think that we would ever go down that path. I think Richard's particular slant and love is for very succinct and pithy type things. If the example is pearls, that you're in the middle of a quest and you know that you need to go to Trinsic to talk to the lady that normally wouldn't say anything about pearls, but now that I know about it, I have to talk to her. I'm pretty sure we would never go the length of having to type out something like ask for pearls, probably keywords, pearls. One of the middle ground ideas that we've talked about is to have it actually both ways, that there are menu items that you can click on that make things very easy, but there's always the option to click in and type your own things, and that way we can hide certain Easter eggs, or we can decide on some of our more important quests if we want to actually make that happen. So there's a lot of ways we can go. It's exactly why we want to talk about it with everybody. You can either throw out your ideas here, find the right threads on our forums on Shroud of the Avatar, create new threads. We're all on there all the time, and especially towards the end of our Kickstarter here, 4 days to go. We're paying even more attention than we have done before. We've gotten a lot of the work out of the way, and a lot of our time now is pure interaction with the fans and seeing how we're doing, checking in for feedback, making sure we're doing well, seeing what you guys like and dislike. There's a question in the forums, can you have a one-player game and an online game at the same time? I don't know that we've finalized anything. Our expectation is that you will. There will only be one player, one persona allowed at a time for online, and possibly offline too. I don't think it would go any more than that. I don't know that we'd allow you to have multiple players in the online or the offline, but personally I feel that at best you would be able to have an offline and an online presence. It's possible that if you have an offline character that he'll never see the online mode, so at least with that in mind it would make sense to be able to have two. Although I expect the differences between those two, you know, the offline single player mode will be a very static, if you don't keep it connected to the internet, a very static and non-changing world. If you're willing to connect to our servers, you'll get all the updates that these guys have talked about, the things like housing and the economy updates and such. Nikolai says, inconsistency would confuse most people. I think a keyword system where you can type out single word or sentence that digs for keywords would be cool. I like that idea. I think so. I think at best, if there were some typing involved, there needs to be some type of parsing going on, you know, where you don't have to spell all 3 words exactly correctly, or it doesn't kick right. And so I think that it would allow me to say something like, I would like to ask you about pearls, where the keyword that it's looking for is pearl. And maybe even, you know, some type of spell checking on that. I think that would be best, and that's probably the challenge we have in front of us as the developers on the game, if we do decide to go that route, to make sure that all those little holes get filled in and that it's a fully enjoyable experience. Yeah, luckily, you know, with the PC in mind, there's always a keyboard available, and I think that's really what has opened up the conversation with us about the easiest route certainly to go is the menu-driven, but since we have the option available to it, and it was such a hallmark of Richard's games while I was growing up, I think that's why it's on the table for discussion, and at least looking into and seeing if we can come up with a way that in the end is fun and not too punishing. That's interesting. That's interesting. Some type of natural speech to the Dragon software is speech to text recognition. That would be actually, that's really interesting. You know, that technology's come a long way. I know on my iPhone, when I talk to it, it does a really good job of understanding what I'm talking about. And I think the reason it does that, you know, any individual word it might get confused on, but as long as it has the context of a full sentence, that can usually be got. That's a very interesting thought. Wow. You've given me something to write down. Thank you, Elaine. Speech to text. Oh, the crazy things we come up with here that might actually see the light of day. That's a very good point, Leganis. We're talking about typing out things will pose not issues or problems, but certainly something we'd have to solve for localization in multiple languages. Certainly need to keep that in mind. While saying one thing in English may mean one thing in Polish or German, it may really not make sense. Yeah, so I think that speaks to the need to keep that system very simple if we can, so that it operates on keywords and not whole sentences. And boy, certainly as we talk about things like speech to text, to try and fully localize that into all the languages that we'd like to. Those are the many challenges and the things that I enjoy that stuff about design. You know, I always talk about the pros and the cons. My favorite thing to do is make a list of the pros and cons, and I make those lists very well. I find great questions to ask, and then I take them back to the team. Guys like Richard and Chris are very good at answering those things. I feel like I'm a good asker. I like doing that. Oh, phone apps. We talk about that all the time. That's pretty not far out there, but you know that's a wonderful wish list thing that we've always talked about, and certainly we need to. I think we need to concentrate our efforts on getting the game made. I was saying this earlier today. I hope that we have a long and illustrious time ahead of us over the next 12 to 18 months of developing game, and then the 4 or 5 years after that of releasing the entire story that Tracy and Richard want to tell. And I think if all those things are going well and really well, I think a lot of those wish list ideas, like an app where I can check into my character on the phone, and a personal wish list for me would be little mini crafting games that I could play on my phone. You know, I can't get home to go put 2 hours into crafting tonight, but I've got my phone and I can do a little game that lets me craft stuff up. A lot of design considerations and big tech considerations there, but certainly things to keep on our whiteboards as we go. Right? Any whiteboards behind me today? Oh, just this one. 4 days to go. Kickstarter is almost over. Right before I came in here to sit down, I shared on my own Facebook wall. I think it's on the Shroud of the Avatar site now. Tracy Hickman, who's our lead story designer, the author of Dragonlance books. He announced on his site that our $1.8 million stretch goal will be serialized novels from him. And man, growing up and being such a fan of his writing in Dragonlance, working with him has been really awesome. But to have the possibility in front of us that we're going to have some books written by him about our game and our story and our world, that's really exciting. So that leads definitely right into the 4 days to go. I've been trying to get the word out as much as I can between my friends and family. Hopefully you all are doing the same. I know you are. It's going to be a fun last 4 days to see what levels we get to and what things we're able to what things will finally make it in the game. All the stretch goals that we'll be able to hit. Oh, the chat goes by so fast. Whenever I try to go backwards in the chat room, it resets it. So I apologize, everybody. You know, if I've been missing your questions going by, I think I've seen a couple of cool things go by. You know, part of I like sitting in here and talking to people. I'm a very much a PC sitting in front of my machine guy. I like it when I'm at my desk with my headphones on, listening to music and hanging out in the chat room and seeing everything that goes by. So that will happen again. Like I said, we're kind of with the close of the Kickstarter here. We're at a point where we're spending a lot of time trying to communicate with you guys, and so personally, I'm finding a lot more time to be on the forums and in the chat. I think our Kickstarter ends on Sunday. We're trying to figure out what the weekend holds for all of us. Maybe we'll all get together and do some partying here through the weekend. I keep a sleeping bag in the back room here at all times. I was thinking about maybe spending the night here over the next couple nights and come check in with everybody on the cam at about 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm not exactly sure on the answer to that question about how long the stretch goals last. I think that's a good one to keep in your pocket for any of the leads or the producers on the game. Richard, Chris, those guys know the details of that stuff. I'm not exactly sure on the nitty-gritty of that one. Well, I think that was some cool stuff that we came up with for conversations and to type or not to type in conversations. Treasure hunting is one that's kind of out there on the fringe, certainly for the people that like the more role play stuff and not a lot of combat, although I think that's something that just kind of lives with all the other systems too. You know, whether you're out trying to find ingredients to craft with or monsters to fight along the way, there's always treasure hunting to be done, and I think if we do our job right, we'll find a cool way to get that in there for no matter what type of player you are. Some of the questions that come to mind, you know, do you drive that off of a skill tree? Is your ability to treasure hunt better and better driven by a skill tree? And if so, how do I get better at that? Do I have to put skill points into it? Or is it just something that's flat and everybody's got the same chances to find the same things at the same time? We've got our overland map, and we've got our dual scale in when you're in the scenarios and actually running around. And what does that mean for treasure hunting at that outermost level? What does it mean for treasure hunting at the innermost level? So those are some of the things that that we're talking about and thinking about working on. And past that, then, my own personal thoughts lately have been on virtues and those things. You know, I loved what Richard did with Ultima 4. I think it was a total game changer on how stats are measured and things that we measure about us as players in the game. And one of the reasons why I've always tried to keep myself as attached to Richard and his projects as possible is because that's the kind of thing that he really loves to do, and I think we'll see some really cool things from that. And I know for him that's one that he likes to do a lot of brainstorming on and hear a lot of people's ideas. So certainly if you're out there on the forums and in the chat, keep throwing that stuff out, especially when you know Richard's eyes are on it. It's a fun thing to talk about with him. Well, I wrote down a couple of good things on my notebook today. Thank you for that. I've got some scheduling to get back to. I've got some open spreadsheets on my desk that I'm going to go do a little type magic on. It's been a lot of fun to hang out here with you guys. I think we're T-minus 50 minutes to our Google Hangout chat. I was invited to participate in that today as optional. I may be there. We'll see. Kind of lost a little time hanging out in front of the webcam today. I was supposed to come in here for 5 minutes and then leave, and I think I have a bad habit of continuing to talk. So I hope to see you all on the Google Hangout that we have coming up in about 50 minutes. Please help us get the word out there, as I'm sure you have been already. We're down to our last 4 days. We want to hit some of these last cool stretch goals. My personal favorite at the moment is the 1.8 million to get some books from Tracy. I think that's going to be real cool. 2.5 million for virtual reality stuff. Personally, I know that that's something that Richard has talked about since, let me measure the time here, 1999 maybe is the first time I really heard Richard talk at length about some of the really cool virtual reality stuff that he'd love to see happen to some of his future games. And God, here we are 14 years later, and a lot of those things are possible now. So if we have the time and the money and the support, I know there was a thread about possibly the virtual reality being an April Fool's joke. It was no joke. If we can make it that far, we'll have some pretty cool futuristic things happen with their game, I think. So thank you, everybody. I'll see you all again soon, possibly on the Google Hangout. Be back on the cam, maybe not later today, but I'll be back on again tomorrow, and we'll find some more cool and fun things to think about. Fire Lotus, I hope I was able to rescue your Dalek properly. He's all dried off. Ooh, he's leaking red. Oh, Mr. Spears, what have you done? Everybody take care of themselves. See you on the forum. See you in the chat. Thanks.